get this idea out there that there are a lot of different casting styles that are useful in different circumstances. And a lot of people teach that there's really only one way to do this, and that's absolute rubbish. There's a lot of different ways to form that loop and get the fly to the target, and I'm going to demonstrate those now. One of the reasons that I demonstrate this early on in the casting day is people come along, people have taught themselves how to cast off YouTube or something, and whoever they've been following on YouTube has said you have to cast this way. And that's simply not true. There's a bunch of different ways you can cast. So the FFI, we call ourselves very style neutral. We're not going to preach to anyone about how they should cast, except well, and there are essential elements within any good cast. And all the casting, all the styles of all the great casters contain those elements. They just put them together in a different way, and it looks slightly different. And their casts have different applications. So don't get caught in this idea that you have to cast or you have to look a certain way when you cast, because they are all useful, but they also have their moments when they can't really be useful. So I'm going to talk about those styles. The first is what's become known as elbow forward style, and it looks like this. It's a very traditional style of fly casting. Elbow pointed forward, raise the rod, back cast loop, forward cast loop, stop and drop. Very traditional style, also used among tournament accuracy casters. It's a very, very accurate style. There is no more accurate style than this. Good for me, because I didn't grow up with this style. It's great for short range stuff, like out to 30, 40, 50 feet. Very accurate presentation. However, the downside of it, I do a lot of saltwater fishing. If I was to put a heavy crab fly on the end, or a clouser minnow, there's a very high possibility that I'm going to hit the tip of my rod with that fly and break it. Okay, because the fly leg of the loop is traveling right over the tip of the rod. This is another style. This is lefty cray style, where the elbow is kept in. I'll just turn around. The elbow is kept low. We call this the elbow low style, or low elbow. Very effective style for fishing off skiffs. It throws very tight loops. It's used to throw very tight loops. But it's also, for me, it's a style I teach as a remedial style. For people who think that or have taught themselves how to cast, and they start casting like this. This is going to lead to long-term problems. You don't need to wave your arm around like that. You can keep your elbow in, very relaxed, throw beautiful tight loops like that. However, if you're wading deep, this low style is not effective. Really good off a boat, off a flat skiff. It's not effective. What if you're on an overgrown stream and you start casting like that? The chances of putting the fly and the fly line in the bush are very high. So this is better casting style on an overgrown stream. What about wading deep? So wading deep is a style of casting developed in the US that we call elbow out, like this. I'll come square on. Elbow out. Big rivers in the US, you can wade across them. 100 metres wide, 200 metres wide. They wade out, big weed beds there, a lot of trout rising, very windy and exposed. And there's your deep wading style. A lot of guys fly fishing in Australia, wading, you know, out to here, out to here. This style is not going to be any good fishing like that. And you're using a heavy fly, so you can't use this style. So you use this style. You use what you can get away with. Okay, so that's the elbow out style. There's another style, the constant tension style, which is a style used for heavy flies and windy days. It's also called an oval cast, like so. Wonderfully effective style, which I'll teach you later today. Here's another style that I use a lot. This is a distance casting style. It's called the 170 style. And I use this when I'm on a boat and I need to throw a long cast, and usually there's other people on the boat or the wind's in the wrong direction, this is when I will get my hand high. But you can throw a huge cast with that style. Okay? And it clears the boat, clears people by a long way. It's a very relaxed style. The principle behind that is that the further you can accelerate this rod tip here, the faster it's going to be traveling at the end of the stroke, and the faster the rod tip is traveling, the faster the loop is going to travel, and therefore the further it'll go. So if I can accelerate this over a long stroke, like so, you can see how far that rod tip is moving. A wonderfully effective distance casting style. And then there's all the spey casts, which I won't go into here. That's another style, spey casting, change of direction cast, using roll casts, but I'm not going to go into that here. And then the spey casts have their own styles within them. So styles are broad. The thing about style is that when you learn them all, they just become technique, and they become technique specific for certain situations, okay, rather than just style. So it's a great idea to go into this with an open mind and the idea of learning a few different styles, and I'm going to teach you those today. Okie-doke, as Lefty Cray said, if we fish the same body of water every day under the same weather conditions with the same rod, line and fly for the same fish, we could get away with one style, but the fact is that we don't. These days we might be up the Fitzroy chasing sooty grunters or Saratoga, and then next week out chasing long-tailed tuna off the beach or the rocks. The next day we might be chasing, or next week, tusk fish on the flats or permit. So all of these have different weight flies. We're using different rods and lines, different species of fish under different weather conditions. So you need that range of styles to deal with them.